Where's the video? Hello. I don't know if anybody there. At the moment, I'm having a slight problem with the video, which is hopefully coming to appear at some point. Nobody's here for the moment, so that's okay. If there's anybody there at the moment, we're having a slight difficulty with our stuff. Okay, that's should be there. Yes, it's here. Tuck, we're getting there. Zero. Hello, I'm just having a little bit of a challenge this evening. First of all, the camera didn't work, and now now I've had to restart the computer. So you have to bear with me a moment because we're having slight technical difficulties, but I'm sure we'll sort it out. Okay. So hopefully I don't know if you can see me. Anybody's there? Hi, good evening. Well, I'm doing my best to get the video that we're going to see up and running. For the moment, it doesn't show me anything, but we'll see. We'll just get it there. And I'm here, and you're here, and this is the penultimate situation. So we are definitely working on this. I'm hoping this is going to work. So I'm supposed to be uploading this. Let's try again. Okay, so I'm here. I'm trying to upload the video. I'm glad to see that you're here. As this is the penultimate episode. Let's say last episode, but it's the penultimate evening that we're going to be together. And so it's been a bit of a complicated day, and it's got to be very complicated. Invalid file. It doesn't want to. It doesn't want to upload. Why does it not want to upload? So just particularly irritating. We can try again. It's a good file. We'll try again. We'll keep going and keep trying. Usually I upload it before we start, and I just forgotten to do it, and now it's daunting to be complicated, and so that's the way it is. So let me know where you're from. Let me know who you are, We are talking about no, it doesn't want to. We're not going to get it to work tonight. I'm not going to get it to work tonight. So let me see if I can find another way of doing this. So let's have a look. Let's go here. And put the sound on. Okay, that doesn't want to work. Okay, let's try that. Who is Meghan Markle? Hello, this is Gary Gedall, psychologist, psychotherapist, looking at who is Meghan Markle. And this is the final chapter, the chapter of who is Meghan Markle. The final chapter, although not the final episode, as it's going to run a little long, as with many other chapters, I've split it into two parts. So, who is Meghan Markle? Here, I'll do something slightly different. I will offer you my appreciation of who she is as a person. Not just events, not just scandals, not just headlines, but a more complete psychological portrait. So let's get into it. The first thing I would say is that Meghan Markle is a very, very complex person. I think on that, at least, most people could agree. Is she a good person? Is she a bad person? In my view, people are never as simple as that. Human beings are complex, they're mixtures. She is someone who, I believe, was in many ways spoiled as a child, in both senses of the term, especially by her father, who appears to have felt guilty. Guilty about the split with her mother. Guilty that maybe having his two other children in the house was part of the reason for that split. Guilty for not always being as available as he would have liked. And because he felt guilty and was not a very forceful person, maybe he wasn't as strict as he might have been with her. And because later he had the means, he seems to have tried to give her everything he could. Attention, opportunities, experience, education, and maybe whatever she asked for. Expensive wedding, maybe. He looked after her as best he could. He even took her to work with him. And when he became financially comfortable, even wealthy, as I've said, he tried to fulfill whatever there was he could for her. We did include expensive schools, etc., etc. Now, that would seem, on the surface, like a very happy childhood. But I don't think the story ends there. I believe that a feeling that something was unhappy in her childhood may, somewhere deep down, actually be true, even if people around her did not see it. Why? Because I believe she missed a great deal of time with her mother. And I believe that absence mattered much more than people realize.
Where are you?
As I suggested in the earlier case study in this series, it is possible for a person to create an internal truth, one that protects them emotionally, even if it's not fully accurate. In her own mind, I think she may have created a version of reality in which her mother was marvelous, fully available, deeply present. And I do not believe that that was entirely true.
Can I have some? Yeah.
And if you cannot allow yourself to see that a parent was absent, unreliable, or emotionally unavailable, then you create a conflict inside yourself. And so, yes, I believe she may have had an unhappy childhood, but in a way most people did not notice and perhaps could not appreciate from the outside. That brings me to something I mentioned before, what I call the big boss adaptation. When a child grows up in a vacuum, without enough structure, enough containment, enough consistent limits, that child often has to create their own structure. They learn too early what they can do, what they cannot do, what is safe, what is not safe, and they begin to operate with more power than a child should really have to carry. Some of that self-created structure can be useful. Some of it can be very inappropriate. But it gives a powerful feeling. I decide, I control, I define the limits. When a child lives in that state long enough, the sense of power can continue into adulthood.
I control everything. That way, I can feel safe.
The adult still feels, I have to be the one in charge. Now add to that the culture in which she grew up. The United States, a country where people are strongly taught that they are free, powerful, exceptional, and entitled to act on that. I'm not saying that to insult America. I'm saying there is a belief system there, a kind of training. We are powerful, we have rights, our freedoms are extensive, and we can shape our lives as we wish. In a healthy person, that can produce confidence. In a more troubled person, it can feed something else, an exaggerated sense of what one can demand, reshape, or impose. And that, I believe, is relevant to her. I do not think she really understands very well how other people feel in emotionally complex situations. I believe part of her dysfunctional childhood gave her limited opportunities to truly understand other people's inner experiences and emotional needs. I also believe the abandonment of her mother left emotional lacks in her, lacks that many people may not see, but which, from a therapist's point of view, show themselves in her behavior. However, and this matters, she also understands other things very well. She understands work. She understands hard work.
Yes, it has.
That is also one of the basic American principles. You work, you push, you build, you hustle. And in that sense, she seems to embody it. She worked as a teenager, she was involved in social projects, she was taken, as I understand it, into charitable work such as the Skid Row soup kitchen environment with parental support. This also tells us something important as part of her upbringing that did contain a message about service, giving, and doing what is socially acceptable and helpful. And I do believe that part of her charity work is real, not just performance, not just image. I think some of it is generally part of who she is. Does she also receive admiration for that? Of course. Does she enjoy positive feedback? Almost certainly. But that does not mean the charitable impulse is entirely false. There seems to be a real capacity in print to give and to function in public service roles with considerable energy. Now, let us come to one of the most sensitive themes, racism. I've looked at this, and my own conclusion is very clear. I do not believe that criticism of Meghan Markle is in itself proof of racism. Criticism is not automatically racist. I do not believe, from what I've seen, that the British public as a whole were fundamentally racist against her, nor the British press. I do not believe, from what I've seen, that the British public as a whole were fundamentally racist against her, nor the British press, because they criticised her, nor the royal family. Could she have felt excluded? Yes. Could she have felt different? Sure. Could she have felt hurt, judged, or rejected? Absolutely. But I think the explanation she has given herself and to other people that these difficulties happened because of race may have just been a convenient personal story. A story that helps explain pain, disappointment, or lack of appreciation without having to face harder possibilities. For example, perhaps certain people did not value her simply because they did not like her. They did not trust her, nor did they find her especially talented. That can be painful to confront. She herself reportedly suggested at one stage she was typecast or limited because she was dark-skinned. This is in her acting life. I do not personally believe that explains very much. In my own view, it's that she did not get many strong roles because she was not, in truth, a particularly strong or flexible actress. And I think the role that made her successful in Suits worked precisely because it matched real elements of her personality. In other words, I think she was not so much as acting as being. She brought weight to that role because parts of it were already natural to her. And do not forget something else. Trevor Engelson, a producer and later husband, was in a position where he might have opened many doors and offered her many roles. Yet even there, the parts were limited and small.
Her performance was one-dimensional and that she struggled to convey complex emotions beyond stiff or over-the-top expressions.
I do not think racism explains that. I think limited acting range explains it much better. So what happens then? If criticism comes, if rejection comes, if disappointment comes, it must be explained somehow. And one pattern I see is this: if someone criticizes her, then the fault is external. They are racist, sexist, unfair, malicious, jealous, anything, but not that it may be her fault. To me, that pattern fits in with a deeper personality structure. And here we come to a much more critical question. Would I say she is narcissistic? Well, I might, or I might not. Well, this seems to be a good place to take a break. So let me know in the comments, what is your opinion? And I'll read them next week. So thank you for watching. This is the most interesting part of the whole of the series, I think and hope. So I'll see you next week. Please like, definitely comment, share, subscribe. See you next Monday. All the best. Take it easy. Bye for now. Gary. Okay, so there we are. I hope you got to see some of that. I don't know how much. So I was just watching it the same as you. So I have no idea. As I say, it's been a bit of a mess this evening. First of all, the camera wouldn't work. Then I had to reboot the computer, and then I couldn't upload the video as usual. So whatever. Um, I find this so interesting. I mean, this last what I just spoke of this evening and what I'll speak of next Monday, which will be the conclusion, the end of the whole series, is basically the reason for the whole of it. The everything before that is to give the basis, is to give an understanding, is to give an appreciation, is to go forward with looking at how she is, who she is, how she's got to be where she is, what her parents are like, what her first husband was like, what Harry is like. All these things are really important and really useful to know, but they're only really useful to know for this last bit, to actually see who she is and to have an assessment of who she is. And as I keep saying, she is complex. It's not such a simple thing to look at and say she's like this or she's like that, because like with most people, she's a bit of everything. And I say that all people, we're all a bit like a committee. Within ourselves, there's a whole mass of different people, a bit like vice versa, but a bit more complicated than that, not just thoughts and feelings, but different positions. So I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do the other. I mean, to have discussions with ourselves, I say it's totally, completely normal. That's what happens all the time. Every time we go into a shop and say, do I want to buy this or do I want to buy that? Or do I not want to buy anything and keep the money because I might need it for something else, etc., etc. So having discussions with ourselves is something that happens all the time. And we have discussions with ourselves because we have different positions, because we as if we had different people within ourselves that say, oh no, we need to save money, no, I need to treat myself, no, we want something green, we want something blue, etc., etc. And when you start to look at people's complex lives and the complex type of different facets that we have, and then you start to understand that somebody that's had such a rich, complicated, but not necessarily totally positive upbringing, has these different facets within herself. And the fact that, as I say, she's got this American exceptionalism, that if you have the means and you have the money and you have some sort of power, then you can do basically whatever you want, unless you're in face of somebody that's got more power that'll stop you doing what you're doing. Well, it sounds like an awful way of being, but basically, in the US, most people function that way. Those with more power, with more money, with more position, tend to do basically what they want, and the customer's always right, and you do what I want, and that's the way she grew up. And she grew up with a very powerful mother, a powerful model of you can do anything, I can do anything, we can both do anything, and a father that won quite a lot of money quite early on. And so she had the access to a father that was particularly rich in her youth. And because and quite attractive and quite an active mind, an active spirit, wanting to do things, wanting to get involved with things. And so she grew up with all the things, all the assets, good looking, intelligent, money, American, with a mother that was showing that you can do anything that you fancy if you just make an effort to do it. So it's quite normal that somewhere she grew up thinking that she could be anything. And thinking you could be anything, they say anybody could be the president of America. Well, she didn't grow up wanting to be the president of America. She grew up wanting to be a princess, and somewhere she believed it was possible. And over time, she created that. Now, is that somebody that's a predator? Is it someone that's going forward and stealing and abusing everybody to get what she wants? Well, from one point of view, obviously, yes. But from another point of view, that was considered to be normal in her society, and it still is. And if you listen to the politicians and to a lot of people with a lot of say and a lot of power, it's like, we are the Americans, we do what we want. We don't see why we should support anybody else. We look after ourselves and we're successful and it's great for us. And that's just the way that the country functions. And she's grown up in that, and that's part of who she is. And she's also was grown up to support others and do charity work, which is really nice, which is really something very positive. So anyway, so that's what we're up to at the moment. Is she narcissistic? It's not easy to say because I find it very difficult to say. It's part of my dyslexia. It's like, so anyway, so I will see you for the ultimate final episode next Monday. Hopefully I'll get things working. Hopefully I'll get enough time and energy to sort them out. I'm actually very, very busy and it's still working. I'm still working full time. We've got some new colleagues that are coming online, so I need to work on that, get them in. New patients, as usual, we always have new patients. And I'm working on some music videos, which if you're looking on my channel, you'll see some of them, a bit political. So depending on what side of the political divide you are, you'll like them or not like them. Well, you'll just see. But I'm quite busy doing that and all the other things that I'm supposed to be doing. So it's and we'll see what happens next week. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.